So there's been a big controversy around everybody's favorite Twitch, well, formerly Twitch, now Kick streamer, now formerly Kick streamer Destiny, which is that he's been making some rather improper and disgusting comments. I'm not going to go with all of the moral outrage that everybody else has because I've already gone through that. This has been going on since Saturday, since the attempted Trump assassination, and since Corey Comparator died. And Destiny has been using the death of Corey Comparator as a means to rage bait, as a means to dance on his corpse so that he can get engagement and so that he can let everybody know how he really feels about conservatives, which shouldn't really be surprising to everybody because Destiny has said for a long time that he hates conservatives and has said a few times over the years, before January 6th as well, because we'll get onto his reasoning for why he's happy, or at least not sad that an innocent firefighter died. He's using that as the reason, but before January 6th, he's been saying this for a very long time. And I think I want to dispel a few things here. First of all, being that Destiny was never, ever, ever the reasonable liberal that he was always made out to be. He was always the guy who's on Twitch, who was considered to be on the left, who people could speak to and have reasonable conversations with because he was willing to hear out the other side. No, he wasn't. Everybody knew his debate tactics going all the way back to JonTron, where JonTron was saying things that at the time were considered very controversial, but thankfully now I think we're all at a point where we can listen to what JonTron was saying about demographic replacement, about crime statistics, about all sorts of things, and go, he was being reasonable.
Well, we talk about that stuff on the podcast all the time.
Absolutely. And rightfully so, because these are things that we need to be talking about. Destiny went out of his way to try and make JonTron look bad, and Destiny went out of his way to try to make it seem that the things that JonTron was talking about were either ridiculous or racist. Mm-hmm. Not happening.
So to sort of build on what you were saying, I know that lots of right-wingers were giving Destiny credit. It seems weird to call him Destiny, you know.
Benelli, Mr. Benelli.
Mr. Benelli, that's better. When he talked about the Kyle Rittenhouse case and he said, well, yeah, it seems like self-defense. Just like, wow. So he said one thing that conservatives roughly agreed with.
That was my initial introduction to him. And yeah, from having no experience of him to that does seem like, oh, okay, he is reasonable. But everything that comes afterwards makes it clear that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's been going on over the past 2 years, we've addressed it on the podcast a few times, is his failed relationship with his now ex-wife, his second ex-wife. You know you're doing well in life if you have two of those, where he had an open relationship and he was going on podcasts talking about Red Pill and saying that his open relationship works for him and how it's amazing and how nothing bad would ever happen because he was so amazing and awesome that Melina wasn't going to leave him even if he let her go out and sleep with a number of guys. Then an emotionally damaged Swedish twink decided that he was going to say, no, you have to stick with me, and she was in love. She was in love and left him for it. But at least she got the green card first. So she got everything she needed out of that relationship. But there's a few other things I wanted to point out through this, which is that I've made comments of this before. Destiny is essentially the id of the left. How the mainstream media pundits think is what he says. He's just stupid enough to say it out loud because he thinks that he can get away with it. But we're finding out that in one way or the other, the conversation is shifting to a point where rules may be actually getting applied evenly and fairly, which means that the same way that I couldn't come out and say, I'm glad that so-and-so was attempted to be killed, or I'm not sad that this person killed, let's make jokes that try and encourage people to commit more violence, but then say, oh, they're a joke. You can't do that. You can't do that. And the other thing as well is that if we're talking about how the mainstream media ginned up fear of Trump, comparing him to Hitler, comparing him to a dictator, saying that January 6th was the worst thing to ever happen in American history.
They're also referring to Trump supporters as traitors and, yes, not patriots and people that are going to do the country harm. They're going to destroy democracy. We've heard it all, haven't we?
Essentially claiming that they're treasonous, which used to be an offense punishable by death. So they created the atmosphere where it made the shooting more likely to happen, much more likely to happen, especially when you've had 8 years. That guy, Thomas Crooks, who committed the shooting, who's thankfully dead now, He was 12 when it started, when all of that started back in 2016. So from the age of 12 to 20, 8 years, he was marinating in a culture.
Almost groomed into it, one might say.
Yeah. That told him that Trump was going to be the worst thing that ever happened to American history. Destiny is part of that. Destiny has been pushing that narrative for a very long time, even in the more recent debates that he's been having against people who clearly know a lot more about the situation and the legal matters than him, people who are lawyers and have practiced law in America before, that being people like Glenn Greenwald and Ben Shapiro. Destiny has still been sounding this bell. He's been hitting the bell and he's been going, Jan 6th, insurrection. If Trump gets in again, he'll never leave office. It was violence. It was trying to destroy the American democracy, etc., etc. So we have to include him in our lineup of people who created this atmosphere. So to get onto it, what started all of this was originally on Saturday, he said that he was conflicted about what happened with the Trump shooting. Then people said, how are you conflicted? Can you not just condemn it outright? Then he said, I'm not conflicted. Actually, what I mean by that is, etc. And then he goes on to start making jokes about it to try and rage bait. If we learned anything today, I hope it's realizing the importance of principles. If you have a firearm, you need to spend more time at range practicing it.
So yeah, he's obvious. He knows he's not smart, but he's smart enough to know that that is going to get a reaction that isn't going to be positive. I think he's been around long enough to know what kind of reaction it's going to get, and he's doing it on purpose.
Yes.
It's sort of like a level of bad faith to this that, it's no longer just you're saying it as a joke. You're not being a comedian. You're just trying to be spiteful and incite violence on people.
At the end of the day, if you were to ask me, does Destiny actually wish that Thomas Crooks had been a better shot and taken out Trump? Yes. Yes, I do believe that Destiny wishes that were the case. As mentioned, he did interviews with Ben Shapiro, debates with Ben Shapiro. This one was more cordial because he was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and Lex Friedman, to his credit, is so slow and boring a speaker that he actually tends to slow everybody else down. So a debate between Ben Shapiro and Destiny was actually tolerable and listenable. And even though I'm not a huge Ben Shapiro guy, Ben Shapiro absolutely rinsed him because Destiny had no idea what he was talking about other than having one or two little factoids here to try and propel his emotional reasoning when he was coming from the foundation with Donald Trump is evil and tried to destroy the country and tried to destroy democracy.
It is worth mentioning that Ben Shapiro, not historically the biggest fan of Trump either. So if Shapiro, who, his personal feelings aside, can still make a better defense in a debate, kind of suggests that Destiny really doesn't know what he's talking about, does it?
Well, Shapiro went onto it and he said, no, I don't believe the election was stolen from Trump. No, I don't believe that Trump should have tried to delay the transfer of power through looking at the electorates and seeing what was going on and trying to find extra votes for himself. But what happened on January 6th does not in any legal way qualify as an insurrection. It does not qualify for insurrection. It does not qualify for any sort of criminal charges against Donald Trump for doing anything other than giving a rousing speech to an audience and saying to go and protest peacefully.
I mean, that much is entirely obvious, that latter part, to anyone with a functioning pair of eyes and ears.
But of course, Destiny was still hitting the drum. And since this has all gone down, Destiny has been still featured on one media appearance, but it seems that it was more for the sake of denouncing him publicly than having a real discussion about it, because Destiny went on to Piers Morgan. And again, credit to Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan used the whole thing as an opportunity to tell him, by the way, you're a disgusting person. You're absolutely despicable for making these sorts of comments.
And that's coming from Piers Morgan as well.
Yeah. Destiny is constantly talking about how, well, actually, Donald Trump is the most divisive president ever, while Destiny is fueling that division within the country himself. So it's incredibly hypocritical of him. It's incredibly emotional of him. And it comes from a place of seething, nasty resentment.
It's not even true. I mean, there was a US Civil War. I mean, it hasn't got to quite that point yet, has it?
No, not quite yet. No. And he was saying, Piers Morgan rightfully said, you're somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with it. In fact, let's just play a bit of the clip.
Yeah, but Destiny, let me explain to you.
Where conservatives can say anything.
No, I'm not a conservative.
They can have any conspiracy theory.
I'm not a conservative.
They can have any plot. They can do any of these things, and then liberals are supposed to sit here and be like, "Oh my God, it's so tragic."
No, Destiny.
Absolutely not.
Let me explain.
Absolutely.
Let me explain my position, because I'm not a conservative. I'm not I'm not on either side in your race, right? Here's what I think about what you did. You'd like to fire off, as you've done so far in this debate, about your fury at how disgusting Republicans are, how inhumane they are, how they never have any empathy, blah, 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 blah. And then you yourself actually are exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with a family, with a wife and children, who he was protecting as he was shot dead, that he deserved what was coming to him because he went to a President Trump rally, a man who was president of the United States until recently for 4 years and maybe again. You sound almost gleeful, Destin, and I'm sorry, that makes you, frankly, despicable.
I don't think I'm gleeful about anything. I don't think anybody should die. I don't think anybody deserves to die. But you want to talk about gleeful? Look at the conservative response to Pelosi's husband when they broke in.
I can answer that.
Mainstream media figures
I can answer that.
I don't care.
Of course, and he immediately deflects.
That's true. I never thought I'd say this, and please, for the love of, all that is holy, do not clip this, but I wholeheartedly agree with Piers Morgan here.
I know. Strange times, strange bedfellows. But also take note of his tweedy twig arms right there. This is something that should always be noted, which is that people like Destiny are not coming from a place of principle. They are not coming from a place of reason and logic. They are coming from a place of seething a priori resentment because of the fact that they have to look in the mirror every morning when they wake up and remember that they're them. And they hate you for being you. Carrying on, so Piers Morgan had him on. Other people who've spoken to him recently don't seem to be so eager from this point. So Jordan Peterson came out and condemned him, saying that you shouldn't be conflicted. I thought you were a representative of the youthful progressive left, but it doesn't seem that you should be representing anybody. Konstantin Kisin and Trigonometry also had him on recently as well. Responded to this when somebody said this guy is as toxic as Nick Fuentes. Hopefully we won't see him on respectable podcasts or debates anymore. You sure won't see him on mine. This led to itself a little bit of a cascade where they got into a bit of it, and Konstantin did the obvious thing, which was, dude, you let your wife get railed by other guys and you were happy about it. You bragged about it. You bragged that apparently this made you a better boyfriend and husband than you would be if you hadn't let your wife sleep with other men. Which
she married him for a green card and was sleeping with other men and then left him. I mean, who could have predicted that?
Sounds like you got scammed, mate. That's what it sounds like to me. Destiny responds, I'd rather watch my wife get railed 10,000 times over than betray family in Ukraine by throwing them under the bus to win an internet debate, you coward, spineless F. Next time you moderate a debate, brush your teeth so we don't have to smell Putin's load on your mother. Sorry, are you accusing Konstantin Kisin of being a Putin shill?
He doesn't know his British politics too well, does he?
This isn't material to this segment, but Konstantin Kisin is a Ukraine war hawk, as far as I can tell. That's his own views, that's his principles, and he stands by them. So this is a ridiculous accusation to make.
Also, when I first read that, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I actually burst out into laughter. It takes a lot to do that these days.
I know. It takes a big man to admit that he enjoys watching his wife get railed by 10,000 guys in a row, I assume. Form an orderly queue. If Destiny ever gets married again, form an orderly queue.
It's going to be the most attended wedding
on
in
his little
history.
He's going to be sat on the stool in the corner watching.
Is it prima nocta where the king gets to bed the wife? Well, Destiny is really taking that to a whole new level.
I mean, he's quite the jester, so it only makes sense. And then you had this. Dom Lucre posted this. Now, remember, this is the guy calling you a beta cook online when you post right-wing opinions. So there are worse, somehow, photos of Destiny's physique.
It looks like a lobster without a shell on. It's like when in Futurama when Zoidberg loses his outer shell as well.
I mean, I thought I was pale, but that's going above and beyond.
I wish I had a pair of sunglasses on me. Do I? No.
I never knew that a man held together by papier-mâché joints could stand up for quite so long, and on sand as well. So we need to give him a round of applause for that one.
Well done, Destiny, for going outside.
So, of course, Destiny found some of Comparator's old tweets and said, this is the effing retard that got killed at the Trump rally, effing Lamau. making jokes about it. He originally responded to a Lauren Southern tweet, which has since been deleted, saying that he wasn't sad that this guy died. So completely disgusting, despicable behavior all around. And as a result, Dom Lucra said, is this not going against all of your hate speech terms and conditions on the website? Why are there still advertisements on here? Because typically, advertisers, as many on the right wing have found out, don't like their adverts placed next to certain types of content. So Elon comes out and says, yeah, you're right, actually. This isn't suitable for it. So then Destiny tries to throw out the, what about my free speech, though? Aren't you being a hypocrite? Who cares? Yeah, no one cares. You're despicable. If I was an advertiser, I wouldn't want my brand associated with you at all. It's just clear. And he, keeps trying to hammer this button. It's not particularly effective. And he's also come out as just saying that he has no values whatsoever. Big surprise, where somebody pointed out.
He's talking about money more than anything.
Yeah, Trump's going. Now, remember as well that this is a man, when he was asked if it was your parents, who you've said before are conservative, who had been on those bleachers and been shot, would you still be making these jokes? Destiny came out and said, well, it'd be less end-of-life costs for me. You're a millionaire. You're a millionaire. You shouldn't have to worry about that kind of thing. What is the point of earning millions if you can't look after your ancestors and your descendants? I mean...
Well, the reason that most people do anything is for the benefit of their family. And if he's talking spitefully about his own family, that explains where he's gone wrong. It's the thing that is, not, to sound a bit Christian almost, it is the sort of rock in which you base your morality and your relationship with the transcendent, isn't it?
Yes. And certainly this is all coming from the place, not of principle, but of, again, the fact that he just has an irrational hatred, burning hatred in his heart for people who are ideologically conservative or right-wing. And he says as much on a recent stream that he did, where he was talking to people on a Twitter space, and he ended up screaming at them, and then afterwards says this. If I go to about... Here we go.
I'm way the fuck over it, okay? If you are... listen, we've been too nice, okay? I know that I've picked up some conservative fans, okay, over the past few years. Just know that if you end up at one of these protests, okay, I'll be tweeting about you, all right? I need all of you to get the fuck out. I know I got more. I know I've got more than 1,000 of you, okay? You are disgusting, anti-American, anti-patriotic fucks, and you are the cancerous rot that is destroying my fucking country, okay? That's what I think about you. That's what I'm going to think about you. If something happens to you at an event, if something happens to all of your fucking whatever, I'm going to tweet that, and I'm going to have a jolly old time, okay? Don't forget it. I'm not joking. I'm not being unhinged. Well, I might be unhinged, but I'm not joking. I'm not going to change my mind tomorrow, okay? Don't ever fucking forget this, okay?
He does sound unhinged, though.
Yeah, so...
It also sounds a bit... It doesn't sound like he's actually... He sounds like he's speaking with a voice. I don't know whether...
He's trying to sound intimidating, and I can understand when you weigh probably about 100 pounds soaking wet, and probably maybe come up to the bottom of my shoulder, why you would need to affect a voice to sound intimidating. But when somebody tells you who they are, believe them, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a man who has said outright that if you are a conservative fan of his, he will laugh and celebrate at your death if you were to get caught in the crossfire at an attempted political assassination.
Isn't Destiny originally from Cuba? That's what people are saying in the chat here.
I think he's part Cuban.
So his country, okay.
He's half. He was born in America. And again, the idea that somebody like Destiny, who has, again, tried to humiliate JonTron for sounding the alarm bell in The Great Replacement, believes that America is essentially a pit stop for all the peoples of the world to extract welfare resources, can say that anybody else is anti-American and anti-patriotic is absolutely laughable. And once again, he's been using the excuse since this all started of the insurrection. The man you're supporting tried to lead an insurrection against the country. He tried to insurrect the government. He tried to form a coup.
The most armed people in the world didn't bring any arms, and also, stayed behind the velvet ropes in the Capitol. And
those ones, and the man who they were supposedly doing it on behalf of, as soon as he ran out of legal means to challenge the results, peacefully exchanged power with Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, when did it happen? I mean,
this is an argument he's been making for years at this point, and he's never been convincing with it. But now that he can use it to try and justify why he's dancing on the grave of a hero, this is what he does. He just pulls it out of his back pocket because it's all emotional, justified reasoning with this 1 point or two so that he can try and say, actually, I'm not a bad person for doing this. And remember as well, each of these posts is getting thousands of likes. Some of these have got 20,000 likes. So unless he's doing a classic and botting the likes, which I wouldn't put past him, but still, this is going to be reflective of a significant portion of at least the American population and the international population as well, which is that if you wear a MAGA hat and take a bullet, you deserve it, essentially. Because Donald Trump bad, because I am totally rational, come up with all of my own opinions, and I read this on the New York Times. He also posted Hassan Piker, an old enemy of his, but at least they can unite on this, where he's saying, oh, it's concentration camps. Border control is concentration camps. Having an actual country that isn't a pit stop for welfare leeches across the world is evil.
One would presume that Republicans would rather they not cross the border at all. So even if there were these purported camps, which don't exist, they're processing facilities, they would rather it not even get to that point. They would rather them stay in their own country, which is the position of pretty much everyone who's anti-immigration.
Pretty sensible. But of course, this is fascist, because he pointed out that the Mexicans coming across the border, you can't vet them, you don't know who they are. There are a significant number of rapists and murderers, because a lot of them are going to be associated with the cartels.
Well, if you're breaking the law by breaking in, then you've probably broken the law before.
You've set precedent for yourself, haven't you? The first act of getting into the country, even getting into the country, was breaking the law. Well, great, I can't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
You come to my front door. If you knock and I let you in, great. If you bash the door down, I'm grabbing a knife because I don't know what the hell you're going to do after that. Simple as that. And he tries to turn it all into Palestine. He's kind of going through all the leftist stages of cope, where he then, and this is a guy who's been an Israel shill for months now, even though he, before October 7th, couldn't find it on a map, and has actively said that Israel should genocide Palestinians. He's now trying to morally grandstand. What's this? Oh, it's live footage from Melina's bedroom right now.
Is that from Always Sunny?
Yeah, that was from Always Sunny. He's trying to morally grandstand, saying, well, people laughed along with my Palestinian tweets, so why do you care so much? Responding to people on Reddit, saying, I'm a fan, but this is kind of disgusting. My friend's mum was there and got spattered with blood. Destiny saying, tell your friend and his mum to get effed. You sound like a reasonable person. And again, January 6th is not where this all started. Destiny wasn't a reasonable person before then, and realized out of nowhere that, oh my goodness, I've come to a logical conclusion. I hate these people now because of January 6th. Here's a few clips from well before then.
I hope there's a civil war, dude. I want to see fucking Trump supporters getting fucking shot in this country because you guys are fucking crazy. Oh, could you imagine watching Nunes's eyes pop out of his fucking head when they fucking hang him on TV? Nothing would make me happier. Oh my god, I would fucking jerk off. So I would never need to browse porn again if I had a live video feed of Nunes being killed for crimes against his fucking country.
Says a lot about the man
my
that
God,
that's the first thing he thinks of.
Arousing fucking thing I could ever imagine seeing in my entire life. Holy shit. I'm squeezing my hog to this. That worthless, subhuman fucking piece of shit deserves to die for fucking treason. Holy fuck.
You genuinely do hate conservatives, don't you?
Very much so. I've moved full on to the political violence level, or the real violence level when it comes to conservative people. Yeah, I think they need to be excised from my fucking country. I think they are demonstrably fucking evil people by any moral system that most people would use. And then I just hate them because they tend to destroy the outcomes related to this country, which is what I'm concerned with. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a topic I'm not yet sort of ready to touch.
I like that response from that guy. So yeah, a reasonable, level-headed liberal. The liberal that the right wing can talk to. Not all like Vorsh or Hassan.
Disgusting, dysgenic freak.
I know. And if you think that that's bad, let's hear how he speaks about his own son. Because he has a son from a previous marriage. And I know this is turning into a bit of a hit piece against his moral character, but I think we absolutely have the right to make value judgments on the moral character of others, especially when they've shown such disgusting behavior over the course of a few days. And I think you can look at the whole range of a person's behavior and say, I don't want anything to do with that. And I think it informs how you should approach them. And it also, again, if Destiny is the id of the left, this is pretty representative of the great biomass of leftists who do despise you and want you to be dead, and also have no values whatsoever to speak of. Oh, is the audio playing on this, Jack? That one's muted for some reason.
Yeah.
Essentially, what Destiny says in this clip, and you can click on the link in the description underneath, is that his son Nathan was born 11 years ago. I think he's 11 years old. And he was pro-life at the time because he was a conservative back then. And his girlfriend was like 19, so he decided that they were going to keep it. And now he's got a son who's 11 years old. Now he's pro-choice. And what that means, and he says this unapologetically, is that if he had the views then that he holds now, he would have, without second thought, aborted his son.
That's such an evil thing to say. I didn't know about this at all.
This wouldn't be a morally bad thing to do because, well, it wasn't really his son yet.
But he's saying it when he's 11 years old. He's basically saying, I want my 11-year-old son dead. Which presumably he will hear.
Not even necessarily that. What he's saying to his 11-year-old son is, my care for your life is entirely conditional. And parents should have a certain level of unconditional love for their children. That goes without saying. So what's the result? What's the result of all this? Well, first of all, he got demonetized on Twitter because advertisers have decided that we don't want anything near this. We don't want to be on this. We don't want him making money off of us. He said, oh, isn't this a bit hypocritical? No, you're a scumbag. These are the rules. These are the rules that have been applied to right-wingers for years, so you don't get special treatment anymore. And on Kick, he got banned. So JonTron sends his regards. I'm not sad. I'm not sad whatsoever that the rules are finally being applied. As we'll cover in the third segment, there's a certain contingent of the conservative right, which is saying that not necessarily Destiny, but this sort of thing beginning to happen is the sign of cancel culture on the right. Therefore, we should feel bad about it. We can't go very far. No, this is the rules being applied evenly. This is the playing field even slightly leveling itself back to an even field, which is not something that we've been playing on for decades at this point, right? So if this is going to happen to somebody like Destiny, who, this has been going on since then, but, you know, this is the last point I want to make, is not in any way apologetic, then I don't think that this is something I need to be sorry about. I'm not going to wring my hands over it. I'm not going to say, oh no, we need to show sympathy to Destiny, a man who would be laughing at me if I was shot and murdered in public. No, absolutely. Destiny has been banned, and I say good riddance.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see more of what we're up to, you can watch us have a lot of fun on Lads Hour. The most recent one is on our rejected YouTube video ideas, where we have a lot of fun. And if you want to see all of the other work we're doing, you can follow us on Twitter, and we post links to everything. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.